G'day there, subs and visitors. This video is going to be a continuation of my research into the symbology of bees in Freemasonry and throughout antiquity. The earliest known Masonic reference to the Beehive is found in the Halliday collection of the Royal Irish Academy of Dublin, and this document is believed to have been created between 1727 and 1730, and while originally attributed to Jonathan Swift, the true author remains unknown. It says that a bee has in all ages and nations been the grand hieroglyphic of masonry, because it excels all other living creatures in the contrivance and commodiousness of its habitation or comb. Nay, masonry building seems to be of the very essence or nature of the bee, for her building not the ordinary way of all other living creatures. It is the generative cause which produces the young ones. For this reason, the kings of France, both pagans and Christians, always eminent Freemasons, carried 3 bees for their arms. What modern Masons call a lodge was, for the above reasons, by antiquity called a hive of Freemasons, and for the same reasons, when a dissension happens in a lodge, the going off and forming another lodge is to this day called swarming. And the bee is important to Freemasonry for the same reason it was important to the Egyptians, because of all insects, and I quote, only the bee has a king. The quote is peculiar because the bee's society is matriarchal. Are Masons referring to the bee king, as in the Egyptian pharaoh who bore the title of beekeeper, or do they know something we don't? Could the male-only tradition of Freemasonry be an extension of the movement that appears to have suppressed or at least tempered goddess worship back in pre-dynastic Egypt? In an article titled Beehive in the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, it says, Freemasons have therefore adopted the beehive as a symbol of industry, a virtue taught in the ritual. There seems to be a more recondite meaning connected with this symbol. Both the Diluvian priestesses and the regenerated souls were called bees. Hence, bees were figured to be produced from the carcass of a cow or bull, which also symbolized the ark. And as the Great Father was esteemed an infernal god, honey was much used both in funeral rites and in the mysteries. There is a passage of Shakespeare which attributes ordered government to the bees, and it goes as follows. So work the honey bees, creatures that by rule in nature teach the art of order to a peopled kingdom. They have a king and officers of sorts, where some, like magistrates, correct at home, others like merchants venture trade abroad, others like soldiers, armed in their stings, make boot upon the summer's velvet buds, which pillage they with merry march bring home to the tent royal of the emperor, who busied in his majesty's surveys. The singing masons build roofs of gold, the civil citizen kneading up the honey, and the poor mechanic porters crowding in their heavy burdens at his narrow gate, the sad-eyed justice with his surly hum delivering over to executors, pale the lazy yawning drone. In the Serapeum of Saqqara, there were 25 multi-ton boxes. These were massive megalithic granite boxes in the tunnels of the Serapeum in Egypt, and official archaeology maintains that this place was a Serapeum, which is the name given to a temple dedicated to the god Serapis, a cult that unified elements of the cult of Osiris and the god Apis from the Hellenistic area in Egypt. And embalmed bodies of bulls were often kept in a serapeum, as the god Apis had the appearance of a bull. And that's exactly what was found in many of the small wooden coffins discovered in the little tunnels. And because of this, the team of archaeologists were convinced that the granite boxes of the Great Gallery also contained mummies of bulls, and that such bodies were stolen in the past by tomb raiders. And worship of the Apis bull as a major source of fertility began in Neolithic Egypt, including the belief that bees were born from bulls. It was said that the sacrifice of an Apis bull could produce 1,000 bees, and that these bees were human souls reborn. And according to a stela found in the Serapeum, it took 28 working days to transport one of the sarcophagi and its lid into its burial chamber. And the Apis bull was an eternal being that never grew old or died, and it would pass from one body to another in an endless progression. The Cape honeybee reproductive cycle is unique among Apis species because a high proportion of unmated worker bees can lay eggs that develop into either worker bees or queen bees via parthenogenesis. What this means is that because female worker bees aren't fertile, the new queen is born of a virgin. And a further correlation of a queen bee with the sacred feminine is that from the time a new queen's egg is laid until she emerges and mates, and in turn lays her first worker bee egg, that time frame is 28 days. So a queen bee's development from conception to production requires a full lunar cycle, as does a woman's menstrual cycle, epitomizing the sacred feminine connectivity with the moon. Therefore, in the minds of our ancient ancestors, such a queen residing in the dark recesses of a hive symbolized the supreme Earth Mother, queen of the underworld, who resided in caves. And because she could fly and was connected with the moon, she was also the queen of heaven. And in Christian terms, this correlates with the Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene and supports the Hermetic axiom of as above, so below. The importance of bees symbolizing the sacred feminine in ancient cultures is demonstrated by the son of Merovius, who founded the Merovingian dynasty. And a bee's egg is laid in a hexagonal cell. Allegorically, monks' and nuns' quarters are also referred to as cells. A queen's cell is bell-shaped, hollow inside, and it's like an allegorical womb. And it's similar in appearance to an omphalos stone. As larvae, a queen bee is fed only royal jelly, and a queen bee is larger and has a longer abdomen than a worker bee. She can fly and sting, but only leaves her hive once in her life. And when she does, it is for about 2 days during her mating flight. Omphalos stones are beehive or queen cell shaped stones that represent the supreme Earth Mother. As such, they symbolize an egg, and when wrapped by a serpent, such as the stone at Delos in Greece, an omphalos symbolizes a cosmic egg, also known as an Orphic egg. And the serpent acts as an umbilical cord connecting the egg to the universe. It is within an egg that life begins, changing in form as it grows until it emerges at birth from darkness into light, epitomizing alchemy as the philosopher's stone. It has also been suggested that the coiled serpent represents electromagnetic energy encircling the globe. Over time, beehive-shaped omphalos stones evolved as pillars, often in groups of 3, and as simulacrums of a virgin mother, Madonna, holding a child. In the ancient world, an omphalos was a sacred object of power that indicated a route to the underworld and allowed direct communication with the gods. The shrines or temples dedicated to the sacred feminine were built at these locations in veneration of the Earth Mother's mysterious power. These stones are found at ancient sites representing geodetic centers at hotspots along Earth's ley lines, and ley lines are naturally occurring paths of low-frequency electromagnetic phenomena following in the surface layers of the Earth. And these currents generally flow in the direction of the sun from east to west. Their conductance can be measured at various surface points, and what these surface points have in common are geologic composition, springs or wells, and hills or mountains. And these sites also tend to resonate at a frequency of about 11 Hz, creating a physical sense of euphoria, visions, and healing. One of the best known omphalos stones is the Oracle at Delphi. It dates to approximately 1400 BC and is situated on a ley line underneath the temple to Apollo, located high on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, where a sacred spring emanates from a deep, vaporous cavern. To the ancient Greeks, Delphi was the navel, the centre of the world, and the omphalos at the museum in Delphi is a restored hollow, marble-carved stone decorated in high relief in what appears to be a netting or grid pattern similar to a queen cell. And it's possible that this grid pattern might also represent Earth's ley lines. And according to Greek mythology, the site at Delphi originally belonged to Gaia. Gaia was the Greek equivalent of the Sumerian goddess Ninhursag, a primordial deity who was the ancestral mother of all life and primal earth goddess. As such, she was also a chthonic deity, to whom black lambs were sacrificed. Gaia is often depicted as a reclining, matronly woman holding a baby or surrounded by infant gods who were the fruits of the earth. And allegedly, the oracle was guarded by Gaia's giant serpent dragon child named Python. Apollo usurped Gaia's chthonic powers by killing Python and took possession of her oracle. Afterwards, Apollo's priestess assumed the name Pythia, derived from the slaying of Python and the oracle's prophetic powers. In another myth, it's said that in an attempt to locate the center of the earth, Zeus launched two eagles from opposite ends of the earth. From where their paths crossed, Zeus threw a stone that landed at Delphi, marking the navel of the world. Jerusalem is the navel of the Abrahamic religion, and there we find two omphaloi, the foundation stone, and another at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Another name for the foundation stone is cornerstone. It provides a basis for building. The foundation stone in Jerusalem is located at the Dome of the Rock at the Temple Mount on Mount Moriah. According to Jewish tradition, the foundation stone was the axis mundi, the spiritual junction of heaven and earth. And the Talmud says it was from the foundation stone that God created the world. It was here that Adam and Eve were so-called. Adam and Eve were created. And one version of the Sumerian myth of Utnapishtim, Noah, suggests that the ark was a cube that came to rest on a pillar reaching from the earth to heaven, symbolizing the end of the Great Flood. And in Jewish legend, the ark disappears and is replaced by the foundation stone, said to lie above the waters that are below the Holy of Holies, which alludes to the Well of Souls, a system of caves said to be a bottomless pit with flowing waters, and it is entered by a small hole at the southwest corner of the foundation stone. Allegedly, the Ark of the Covenant rested upon an altar on the foundation stone within the Sanctum Sanctorum of Solomon's Temple, located above the Well of Souls. It is important to note that the only evidence of there being a first temple is in the Bible, and there's no other records describing it to date, and there's been no archaeological evidence of the temple having existed at all. And nothing can be attributed in a way that leaves no doubt that a great culture was developed under King Solomon. If we look at the Capitol's dome in Washington, we can see the similarity in appearance between the Beehive, Queen's Cell, and the Capitol's dome. And the oculus dome of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., with Columbia on top, also represents an omphalos. It symbolizes emergence of the sacred feminine in America and her union with the sacred masculine, represented by the Obelisk of Washington Memorial. There's a reflection pool of water extending from the Obelisk of the Washington Memorial to the Lincoln Memorial. And this reflection pool is said to allegorically symbolize that form of the union of the sky above the earth and below. A new masculine nation was born. Lady Columbia and the Statue of Liberty are the two pillars of American colonialism, as Lady Columbia served as a nurturing mother figure. But images of the Statue of Liberty displaced personified Columbia as the female symbol of the United States by around 1920. And Lady Liberty was seen as both an aspect of Columbia and a rendition of the goddess of liberty. So they basically merged into one. And this is the cover of Puck magazine in 1901, with Columbia wearing a warship bearing the words World Power as her Easter bonnet. Worship, warship, same thing. And back in ancient Greece, Eleutheria was an epithet for the goddess Artemis, and as such she was worshipped in Myra of Lycia. And the Roman equivalent of the goddess Eleutheria is Libertas, a goddess in her own right and a personification of liberty. And the Statue of Liberty is modelled after Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty. And in this book, written by Levinus Vincent, there's some interesting depictions in this book, and I believe it was written in 1706. Don't quote me on that. But in this book, there are some illustrations, and one of them is quite interesting. with these jars on the shelf. And I did some research on this book, and it's kind of explained away as like a collection of sorts, you know. But as you can see in this image here, in this video that I've taken of this photo in from the book, there's little people in there, and I mean, they have man's faces. You know, you would think that somebody would be able to depict a baby in a jar, you know, if it was a fetus. But these things in this jar look like men, like little men, little dwarves. It's very bizarre. And of course, here we are with an image of a swift nymph carrying a beehive, and there's these little smaller beings below her, and one is holding a compass and square set, and the other seems to be holding some kind of peacock's tail. So there's a lot of symbology in this image. But yeah, of course, I was interested by the beehive. And lastly, we have this magnificent image here, which we have again this being that looks to be both male and female. Has very male physique with multiple breasts, and this tower on his head, or her head, or its head, this feather sticking out, and the zodiac is around the person behind him, and this figure with the the headgear on is leaning on the globe and peering down at what's below this covering, and the other person behind is quite intrigued as to what might be below there. But yeah, so this person is leaning over this guy's or person's shoulder, peering under the embroidered garment of the figure next to him, and which is depicted as the many-breasted goddess. And I'm definitely going to be having to have another look at that book and see what else I can find in relation to it. But yeah, it's basically looking a lot like a lot of these facilities and older places around the world throughout history and antiquity could have been facilities where things were being created, cloned. And as we know, there's nothing new under the sun, so this type of thing has been going on and is going on. But I'm going to end this here, and I may make a part 3. So much love to you all, and I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are and whatever time it is for you in the realm, and I hope to catch you on the next one.